Hello Uplanders, the release of Rio de Janeiro is just around the corner and there are some important updates made by Upland. Some new things that we haven't experienced yet as part of new city releases, and I'm going to explain those to you in this video. I'm YK2012, the founder of the Upland Guide, and on my YouTube channel you can find all the information you need in order to learn how to play and earn in Upland. Make sure to also check out the links in the description below to follow me on all my social media platforms. We know that the release of Rio de Janeiro will not be in its entirety at the beginning. Similar to what they did in Las Vegas, they said that they are opening up part of the city, and in the future, as there will be more demand for more properties in that city, they will open up more neighborhoods and another section of the city. The same thing will be happening in Rio de Janeiro. This type of release has a big effect on the collections. We know that Rio will be a vanilla city release, which means that 1 week after the city has been released, the collections will be revealed. There will be between 16 and 22 collections, ranging from standard all the way up to ultra rare. And during a vanilla release, you are able to mint these properties at their base price. There could be a situation in Rio where there is a collection on a specific street, and that street is split into two, where part of it is part of the release that is going to be happening on July 26th, and the other part of that street could be in a section that is not going to be released at this point in time. So that means that this collection will be known, and let's say 4, 6 months down the road, Upland decides to open up the other half of Rio, everyone is going to know that the continuation of that street is going to be part of this collection. In the future, those are going to be properties that are going to be in extremely high demand. Lots of people like to own and collect collection properties, and this will be in very high demand in the future. Take a look at the video in the upper right-hand corner where I go into detail about why you might not want to mint collection properties. So we can see here that it says, since all collections will be known ahead of future expansions, these expansions will be released in standard mode and properties will be priced accordingly. Now, priced accordingly, what exactly does that mean? I'm here on the Upland Guide website on the collection pages, and you can see this link in the description below. And here it actually details what is meant by collection properties being priced accordingly. If we are still in vanilla mode and we don't know the actual collections, then you are able to buy the property at the base price just like any neighboring property. However, if we know what the collection is, then the price of that property will be adjusted by this mint factor. We see that as the collection type increases in rarity, the multiplier factor increases as well. If I were to have minted a rare collection property which is part of a specific street in vanilla mode, and let's say I paid 100,000 UPIX for it, and the neighboring property, which is also on that same street and also part of that same collection, was not minted, after the collections are revealed and it is known that that property is in fact part of the rare collection, then that neighboring property, which is the same size, which would have cost 100,000 UPIX, is now going to cost 11 times that. So the new mint price of that property would be 100,000 UPIX times 11, which would be 1.1 million UPIX. So this is what is meant by these collections will be priced accordingly in the future. The second change to the Rio release is a limit on the property sizes. They are announcing that anything larger than 5,000 up squared or smaller than 7 up squared will be locked and not available for minting. Chances are that they're either going to be using some of these smaller properties for some sort of giveaways or contests, and the larger properties, they might be using them for potentially auctions or to give them to partners or larger brands that do end up entering the metaverse. These brands might want to use those large properties for construction and manufacturing or for some other reason. The third important change is that there is going to be something that's called a starter neighborhood. And this starter neighborhood is going to be made up entirely of affordable FSA properties for new players who have a net worth of less than 100,000 UPIX. You can learn more about FSA properties in the upper right-hand corner. Upland says that these neighborhoods and others like it are intended to serve as a landing place for new players to start their Upland journey and mint their first property. The starting neighborhood in Rio de Janeiro is Cidade de Deus. I hope I pronounced that correctly, but you can see that here outlined in red. This is in addition to the 27% FSA properties. New players with net worths of less than 100,000 UPEX who are able to mint these FSA properties are not required to. There's no requirement for a new player to only mint FSA properties, and definitely not only to mint in this neighborhood. They can mint properties anywhere. This is just a specific neighborhood that is off limits for minting from players who are pro level or higher. If they do want to buy one of those properties, then they would have to purchase that on the secondary market from one of these newer players who have already minted that property. The last change that is being made is to the Rio stress test. This is something that they have implemented in some of the previous city releases as the new stress test method, where they will be opening up one neighborhood, this one being the central neighborhood in Rio, where anybody can go and mint the properties there. There are going to be both FSA properties and non-FSA properties. 5 minutes after the release, there will be treasures that will appear on minted properties throughout the neighborhood. You won't be able to see them, but you will want to send yourself to different properties in that neighborhood in the hopes of trying to find some of these treasures. Most of these treasures will grant you UPEX that will cover your send fees, but some of these treasures do hold 10,000 UPEX in them. So that could be a very nice bonus for you ahead of the full city release the following day to give you some extra UPEX to go mint some properties. These treasures will be spawning every 5 minutes, with sends being dropped in the neighborhood at 9:10, with sends being dropped in the neighborhood 5 minutes after the first treasures are spawned, and after 5 rounds of these treasures being dropped after every 5 minutes, the stress test will end. Any player who participates in the stress test has an opportunity to win 0.25 Spark, and you can win entries into this giveaway by minting properties and also by claiming treasures and sending yourself to different properties. The purpose of the stress test is to ensure that the entire Upland system and platform is able to deal with the large stress that is put on the blockchain and their systems during new city releases. It is the most active time in Upland, and everybody is trying to get some of the best properties in a city release. So they want to make sure that they test the system before the entire release to make sure that people have a positive user experience during the city release. Don't forget to use the Upland Guide travel bot in order to determine both the cheapest and fastest routes to get between any two cities, including Rio de Janeiro. They have announced that flights to and from Rio de Janeiro to Los Angeles, San Francisco, Chicago, and Manhattan will be free. Make sure to stay tuned to Upland's official announcements to find out when you can start traveling to Rio and also when the free flights will be. If you're a new player and you want to learn more about how to play Upland, take a look at this playlist down below, which will give you everything you need to know about getting started in Rio de Janeiro, and also this video to avoid making some new player mistakes that everyone typically makes during these new city releases, something really important before you head into Rio. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for a lot more information about Rio and everything else coming up in the Upland Metaverse.